We started in Genesis with Joseph's story, spanning a fair portion of the book. He's the central figure in most of the chapters from 37 to 50. I suppose that you could say that his story even started before that, because remember, there are stories about his great-grandfather, grandfather, and father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. From there we go to the book of Exodus, and it's here that we're going to see the start of God fulfilling his promise that we heard yesterday through Joseph. Exodus 1 verses 1 to 10 says, "These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the land was filled with them. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. 'Look,' he said to his people, 'the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. And if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies and fight against us and leave the country.' This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God." So we have a situation here where we see time having gone on. The Israelites have really settled into Egypt and their population is really starting to grow, and the Egyptians start getting nervous. It seems like there had been some understanding between the Israelite communities and the Egyptians. Maybe the previous kings had still felt indebted to Joseph. For not only saving them and all their subjects from starvation, but also for acquiring all the land that they gained over that time. Do you remember that the Egyptian government first traded money for grain, and then people started selling their land for grain? And when they got really desperate, they finally had to sell themselves with their land. It was that, or they starved to death. Basically it was the lesser of two evils. And so it was through that Joseph managed to accumulate a lot of land and wealth for the monarchy. It's verse 8 that really stands out to me, where it says, "Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt." This new king sees the Israelites as a threat, as a problem, when in fact it was an Israelite who saved him and accumulated much of his wealth. Knowing the full story is so important. Actually, I'm going to rephrase that. I don't think you can ever know a full, complete story when it comes to our own lives or the history of a nation or the world, because our stories are so complicated and complex. There are just too many details and intricacies for us to be able to take note of. Our brains simply cannot compute at that level. And then, of course, there's also the problem of subjectivity. We all have perspectives and biases which influence our perspectives. So I admit that you cannot ever truly know the full story, but I don't think that's an excuse for not knowing any of the story. We need to be open to learning as much as we can. We need to know where we have come from. We need to know the events that have shaped our world. Even just being aware that the world doesn't start and end with you or me means that we are willing to go beyond ourselves and to consider alternative perspectives. It's by doing that we bring a real depth to our understanding. How different would the Israelite story have been had the king not seen the Israelites as a threat? Some of us might be very aware of our context, while other of us maybe a little less so. Which area of your life have you been ignoring the bigger picture? I know that recently within my family dynamic, I've been challenged on a couple fronts to relook at my understanding on what is going on and how things have got to where they are. Maybe you have a similar family dynamic, or there's a friendship or circumstance where we need to not limit our perspective to what seems immediately obvious, and to keep the whole context in mind. And as we do that, and as we ask God for wisdom, we might find that we understand others or circumstances more, and hopefully then we will react not like the king who responds with fear, but we will respond in love, just as Christ does. Amen.